Hey everybody, welcome to a pre-recorded Habitat Now. I'm here with Lacey, LaceFace Walton, who is joining me from the road. She's in Colorado right now. And Lacey, is your last name still Walton or has it changed? I saw there's different last names in your email.
Yeah, my maiden name is St. George.
Aha.
Uh, I changed it to Walton after I got married a few years ago.
Gotcha. That helps me clarify a lot. So I want to thank you for joining me today, Lacey. It's an honor to have you joining for NGG July. It is very exciting to have you here. I'm going to go through a little bit of our information here at the gallery, so bear with me while I kick and take over my screen, and we'll talk about your work and your career. So thanks everybody who's watching this on YouTube. If you're watching it, like, subscribe, hit that bell, and we do these Habitat Nows every single Saturday at 1 o'clock. This is a pre-recorded one, but I look forward to seeing you every single Saturday. So our Zooms are going to be replayed on YouTube. So this one particularly will be on YouTube today. So please check it out. And then come and see our show, Glass 51. It is live on display here at the gallery. So it is an incredible exhibition. So if you haven't seen it, come make an appointment. Come see us soon. Now, continuing into NGG, this is an exciting event. We have July. It's already flying through the year, and we have Lacey LaceFace Walton joining us today. So let me kick over and welcome you, Lacey. I'm going to stop sharing so you can say hi.
Hey.
The
Okay.
true honor to have you. Give me one quick second. I'm going to stop recording again. Well, thank you again, Lacey. We'll continue on. Let's share my screen right now so we can see what's going on. All right. Perfect. NGG July. It's been a long time coming. Lots of amazing works to see, but let's go with some Q&A if that works for you, Lacey. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Let me show a little bit of slides here. This is your logo from your website, which I thought was very fun. But let me ask you the first question. Tell me about your upbringing and your story.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Southern Oregon. My family culture and tradition, I guess you could say, sort of arising out of the hippie movement. My mom and my stepdad, my brother, my uncle all started making pipes in the 90s
Hmm.
and at a head shop as I was growing up and through high school. And so that's kind of how I got into glass making and pipe making specifically. And so it's just something I was born into. And uh, yeah, it was interesting because I was very against pipes for a long time because I didn't really smoke. We've been taught in school of dare and, people against, doing drugs and stuff like that. So I had this idea from culture, that it was really bad. And so I kind of rebelled when I was in high school and went to church and was really hell bent and determined to put myself through college. I wanted to be a teacher.
Hmm.
And I just didn't really understand glass making, but always was a really creative, artistic person. And it wasn't until I got to college and really kind of understood, what cannabis was and, the medicinal aspect of it, and just like how, not scary it really was. And so I ended up moving back in with my mom after college. And it was then that I was like, I want to try this glass thing. I want to, let me just make some pipes on the side to kind of make a few bucks till I figure out what I want to do with my life. It wasn't, I never expected that it would have been a long time career, but here I am, 20 years later, and it's become a really huge blessing. And I've been able to take it places I never thought I could.
It's really exciting. We'll get more into that, but do you have any of your parents' work in your collection?
Um, that's a good question. Not really. I have some of my uncle's work and my little brother's work. My
Mhm.
little brother going glass when he was 13. And then my mom's younger brother, my uncle, has been blowing glass, gosh, 25, maybe 30 years. So yeah, I mean, it was really just a hustle back in the day, but it really turned out to, feed a large chunk of my family, and allow us to be creative. I have a lot of creatives on both sides, my father's side and my mother's side. And engineers, fabricators. So it was feel like I have a little bit of that gene. It was really easy for me to apply that to glass.
That's pretty fun. Learning all that knowledge from those around you must have been really, really great to have, resourceful. So
Yeah. And I didn't realize, it's really interesting because where I lived, glass blowing and pipe making was just like the norm. And it wasn't until I started traveling all over the US that I realized, oh, wow, like, people don't do this everywhere. Like this is a very rare thing. So it's very interesting. I feel like I was born, this really specific place and time in history, to have been exposed to this from a really young age. So
that's great. For those that are watching on YouTube, we're just flipping through some of Lacey's work over time. So feel free to enjoy the images while we continue the questions, such as, Lacey, what is your life like as in the community? What do you do? You travel? What's going on with you?
yeah, so I have a studio at home. I live in Austin at the moment, so I have a home studio in my backyard, where I create most of my things. But I get to do a lot. I travel to trade shows where I meet a lot of head shop owners and gallery owners, and I get to travel around. I have a lot of friends in the glass community from all over the country, so I get to travel around and work with all my friends and do collaborations. I've done a lot of competitions. I've probably done 30 to 40 flame off glass blowing competitions over the years. And now, just in the last few years, I've begun teaching. So I teach workshops around the country throughout the year. And I really, really enjoy that at this point in my career.
It's really good that you've had the opportunity to meet so many people and learn from them and work with them. It's something that's so unique to the community, and the fact that it's so tight knit. It's such a fresh view of how people can work together in the community. It's great.
Yeah, it's really amazing because we all kind of teach each other. Every time we work together, it's like, you put our styles and our techniques together and we learn from each other. And I think that's a really big reason why the pipe glass movement has exploded in the way that it is. It's just because there's no limits. There's no really like hardcore tradition that is like saying this is how glass has to be made. We just kind of invented our own way, and shared it with each other. And, we lift each other up, and it's really allowed the movement to grow.
Have you ever thought of traveling to Murano? Have you been to Murano? Have you thought about
It,
traveling to Murano?
I would absolutely love to go to Morano. Yes, I look forward to the future and really expanding, and being able to work with people that are kind of outside of the pipe industry and be able to get into more galleries and studios that are have a wider audience. And so it's a big part of my goal for the future.
I mean, you're talented enough to not go, but I think the idea that you can get some a travel over there because I see a lot of the techniques in your work. I think it'd be an incredible experience to see and experience the town because you're already in it, 2 feet
Yeah,
deep, not farther.
I mean that old tradition is why I'm here. Really, I mean, a lot of glass sculpture was really originated back then, and so it did influence my work back when I was first starting and trying to figure out how to make the human form.
Mhm.
I and reference some of those old works and really see what could be done with borosilicate. So yeah, it'd be great to go pay homage to the homeland there.
Great. This picture's fun. Looks like you're making glass in a freezer. Are you cold there? What's going on in this photo?
Pretty cold up in Seattle. I remember during that time, I think in the middle of winter. But yeah, I mean, that's me working on a really big piece. And like, I'm kind of a small woman. I'm 5'2", and I don't know how it happened, but I just the people that I was surrounded with, the guys were making big heady pieces, and I just thought that's the way to go. So that's me working on something that's probably half the size of my body, and uh, really having fun with it. The confidence just kept building with every piece that I kept making. So I'm really comfortable at this point going with larger scale works.
Yeah, I've seen that. We'll talk about some of the pieces that are available at a larger scale at the end of the talk, but definitely are comfortable. Next question. Tell me about an experience when your work moved into the fine arts.
Yeah, so this really happened after I had my baby in 2017, after I became a mom. I had to take a year off of blowing glass, and it had been, 13 or 14 years of grinding hard, like every single day, making work. And then all of a sudden I had to stop. And it was really a huge shift in my identity and really trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life and what kind of meaning I had. So by the time I did get back on the torch, my time was so limited, right? Because I had a baby and was being a mom. So when I went into the studio, I had to make really good use of my time because there wasn't much of it. And I just decided that, instead of going in and making proto and trying to worry about the hustle and the money, that I would instead go in and just try to create things that really made me feel alive, right? That I was really excited about, that I didn't know where it was going, but that wasn't the point. Like I just needed to create these things that I thought were beautiful. And, it was like this really huge shift happened in that moment where my work all of a sudden started to have these real messages behind them. And I had something to say. When you have a kid, you look at the world differently. And so things like particularly the subject of climate change, is really something that I think about a lot. And like, what kind of world is my son going to have growing up? And so I began to use my work to kind of talk about that, to make nature have like personify the human spirit in nature and how connected we are to that. And so, I just like enjoy putting out work that makes you think about that and makes you think about like, trees are beings, right? They communicate with each other and they represent so much of life on Earth and give us life on Earth essentially. So, it's really fun to be able to apply different themes. I have political themes in my work, religious things in my work. And this is what really excites me.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to just be creative and create the visions you have and make them come into existence without the pressure of, like you were saying, having to put them up for sale. And it really elevates what you create at the time because now you're limitless in a way, and it really shows. And it probably helped you develop your techniques and your processes and your styles during that time too.
Oh yeah, it's I had never spent a couple months on a piece before, and I was able to really put a lot of thought into every day that I went into work as I chipped away at these pieces. And I'll go in there and make hundreds of parts. My some of these pieces have several 500, 600, 700 pieces. I call them puzzle pieces, right? That I all assemble all at the end. And so it's almost like a meditation practice that I really enjoy the process of making all the little sculptures, the repetition, and then putting them all together like a puzzle. And just the intention and the time that I put into it, is really, I really enjoy it, the process. So
It's great. So here's a hot question for you. How do you feel when you were told that pipes are not art?
I feel like that has been a motivation for me for almost the last 20 years. I remember, I don't know where even I saw it. No, it was a conversation that I had maybe 2 years in, talking with someone about pipes. And back then, it was kind of heady art. And telling someone that it was art. And I remember this woman's reaction. It's a pipe. Well, that's not art. Like a pipe can't be art. And I remember sitting with that and just being like, what? How is that? It's like so far from the truth. It's an object, it's a beautiful object. Who's to say that it's not art, that it doesn't move somebody or have a message? And I think pipes in particular are especially art because they're really speaking about a culture in society right now, like, and cannabis and the cannabis movement in society. Like these pipes are representative of a whole movement in culture in American society. And not to mention, pipes have been around all over the world for centuries. in all kinds of religions and cultures. So I think it's a really, it's a huge piece of art. It's a huge piece of representation of American culture. And I, personally have been on a mission to prove that pipes can be art and that they should be taken seriously, that they belong in museums and in fine art galleries because they're representational of a big, massive part of American culture. So, I enjoy making pieces that don't look like pipes at all, that look like some beautiful object and you would never know that it functions. But every single piece that you see in the slideshow is functional, because it connects me to that culture is part of, to me, what makes it art in itself.
Have you made pieces that aren't pipes too?
I have recently, in the last couple of years, been making chandeliers, or very intricate light fixtures. And so this is the first time, aside from some jewelry, that I've really kind of branched out into something that's not a pipe, but I'd still call it functional because it's a light, right? It's
100% right.
yeah, but yeah, just in the last couple of years, I've started doing chandeliers, which I really enjoy, and I'd like to do some more. So I'm not limited to pipes, but I think there's just something in me that really enjoys being connected to the pipe culture. I mean, this is my community and family, essentially. So it's like always a nod.
Yeah, I can see that. I love this piece, by the way. It reminds me of that movie Six or Eight.
What's
There's a movie called Six or Eight. It reminds me of that movie.
oh, yeah,
Cool
that's
piece.
bad.
It's what's it called?
That piece is called Bag of Tricks, and she's a collab with a guy named Peter Muller, who is really well known for, he does these like voodoo dolls, and kind of he sandblasts his glass, so it kind of looks like it's more of a like a material, like a felt material or something, and he gets these really cool effects. So and it's really fun working with other artists and their unique approach to glass. I mean, there's been so much innovation with what people are doing with borosilicate. And so Peter is a great example of just how to apply different techniques like carving and sandblasting into works. So it's a
How
fun
tall
thing.
is this piece, would you say?
I'd say this is probably about 10 or 12 inches tall.
The reason I bring that up is the amount of detail in that scale is insanely impressive. Just to see how much goes on in this piece and how you guys work together to create something so beautiful and interesting.
Yeah,
Love
I
it.
really piece. Yeah, sometimes when you collaborate with another artist, the idea is so cohesive and so beautiful that it's almost, you can't even almost tell that there's been two artists involved because it's like the idea is just there, and that's I love that. That's a really beautiful synergy. That happens sometimes when I work with other artists.
Yeah, we'll skip to that next question then, just about that. How do the collaborations come together, especially large scale ones?
Well, yeah, I mean, being in the industry for 20 years, I've made a lot of friends and I network a lot. And so, we travel a lot. A lot of times I see, several dozen people a couple times a year in different locations throughout the country. And so we kind of become like this community. So we'll get together maybe and make a piece for a show or for a demo. There's always an excuse to get together with your friends and make something cool. And so, it's part of really the fun of being part of the community is being able to just go hang out with your friends and travel around. I have friends come to Austin to work with me, or sometimes I'll fly out to work with somebody else, and we always have a good time.
Have you participated in the like the big collabs where it's like 7 or 8 people working on one piece?
Yeah, I mean, I have in the past. Typically I only work with one or two other people for events, but yeah, I've definitely thrown down on some larger works and different times in the past. Um, there was this pipe, I forget what it was called, but back in Seattle, they had these big group collab parties,
Hmm.
uh, the pipe collab parties. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's just a bunch of people getting together and having a good time, having a party and blowing glass and just making fun stuff.
I can't imagine 7 hours working on one piece together, like how the dynamic works of the, I'm guessing whoever owns the facility where the project is going on as a dictator and everybody else kind of participates in their own style. It's
Yeah.
got to be interesting.
Well, it is. I mean, and typically there's like the captain of a ship, right? There's typically someone who is kind of the leader of the project, and they're doing most of the assembly, and then everybody else is kind of feeding them parts.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And so, yeah, because it's putting together one of these pieces that takes days to put together. There kind of requires like someone to take the lead. So it's like being on a ship. You have the lead person, and then you have like the first mate, which is like your prep guy maybe, and then you have some of your other mates throwing in parts that you need for these pieces. And so, yeah, it's a good time for sure.
That's a perfect analogy now. I completely understand it. This is perfect. What I needed to know. So you said earlier in our conversation before we started recording that you were kind of born in the right time in right place in history. How do you give back to the community?
Yeah, I feel it, sometimes I wake up and I just can't believe I get to do this for a living. It's when I started, there was no career. There was nobody that I could look to be like, yeah, I want to do that when I grow up. Like that really didn't exist. And so, I only knew of a couple of female glass blowers back when I started, maybe two or three that I could even name. And so just being in the industry for 20 years and showing up at all the events and doing the competitions, I made a name for myself. And so I got to be sort of a pioneer of this movement because of the time that I got into it. I got to be, among the first few dozen to really kind of take it to the next level, to really do the traveling and do the collabs and show up and I feel honored now that as I'm sort of kind of in the older generation, that now I see a lot of people kind of coming up in the pipe world, and they can look to me and look to see what I've done and be like, yeah, like that's possible. I think I can do something like that. And it's a really honor to be able to, show people like, hey, like, look at what you can do with glass. Look at the kind of life that you can live by and the kind of creative freedom that you can have. Like it's out there and it exists. And part of my mission now, as I'm older and in my career, is really to give back to the community. I've really discovered how much I love teaching, and really just seeing that excitement of people coming into class and realizing that the possibilities are endless. I mean, I feel like you can never learn all there is to know with glass. There's just so many directions you can take it and so many techniques that you can apply to it. It's really just this beautiful canvas. And it's given me this life full of travel and freedom and community. And I think that we should all have that. We should all feel like we have a calling in this world and freedom to be creative and to put beautiful things into the world. I want to share that, and I want to give that back and tell other people like, look, this is possible. You can live this really beautiful, fulfilled life with this medium. So
Yeah, looking at the work you create, you're definitely putting beautiful things into the world. Every work can create an experience. I was talking to you earlier about the difference between art and fine art is the opportunity to have an emotional response when you see something that is art that creates some kind of movement or feeling in yourself that you A can feel generally about your life, B reflect on, and C want to learn more about. And every work I see that you create has that kind of feeling. It has, you could just make a pipe and pass it on, but you're really putting time and effort into creating amazing works that have that drive, demanded response, whether you like it or not. You're going to feel something when you see your work.
yeah, and I feel like that, mainly in the last 5 years have I really been able to dial in that it's like using my artistic vocabulary like as my voice to talk about different subjects that matter to me, whether they be about political or religion or climate and nature and earth. I get to tell stories, and it's taken many years to get to the point where my skills and techniques could catch up with what I see in my brain. And now that I'm capable of doing that, it's really fun. I almost consider myself like a storyteller, more than anything. like to make works that make people think like, what's going on here and why is this so interesting? And yeah, I enjoy that process a lot.
Yeah, I consider goes along with it is a poet. You're a poet with material, creating magical, beautiful pieces that flow and have a response to people beyond storytelling. So take that into your repertoire too, which is great.
Yeah. It's so awesome. And the coolest thing too is that people get to interact with my work as well. Like it's not just something that's beautiful that they can view, it's something that they can actually interact with and have almost like this relationship with. I mean, it's this tool that people use to commune with each other or have ceremony. And so there's this whole other dynamic that goes along with my work where it's interactive, which is especially interesting, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You have that idea of putting something on the shelf and never touching it. There's pieces in my world where I go in people's homes, they haven't moved or touched the piece in 38 years,
Yeah,
and they're covered in, layers and layers of dust. And it's like, what? How did you even enjoy that piece for the last 37 years? You know? But this is the kind of thing where you bring out and whether you use it or not, you get to enjoy it. And what's also interesting I found out about this community is that like every piece that is made, every dollar that goes in stays there because from Robert Mickelson gave a talk recently to the AACG group, that Glass Collecting Alliance group, that people buy these pipes and they hold them and then they sell them and then buy another pipe. So it's a self-sufficient industry where once you go in it, it grows and expands from here, which is really exciting.
absolutely. I mean, when I say community, I'm not just talking about glass blowers. I mean, there's collectors and shop owners, and we all work together to really push forward this artistic movement. It takes all of us, and so it's really beautiful in that way too. Like, the people who collect are really educated and really understand kind of what's going on with glass, and even the head shop owners, are some of my biggest collectors because they've been around so long and they've seen the industry grow and they've seen the artists that really stand out and that can have longevity. So yeah, I mean the community aspect is huge, and people build businesses and support their families and by doing making the glass and selling the glass and collecting. It's pretty great, we're all a big
Yep.
family here.
Right, for sure. With the P, it's got to be interesting how that dynamic works. I'm not familiar with it with the head shop owners who buy your work. I would imagine if I did, I would definitely keep your pieces on display because people want to come and experience your work in person, kind of like creating the mini museums. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I view a lot of head shops as sort of mini museums. Some of these head shops are holding on to pieces of my history and other
Hmm.
art, and they have them on display. Some of these big pieces I call show pieces, right? They're like signage. They're the pieces that that are sitting in the head shop and that people are bringing their friends in to see, like, oh wow, look at this cool piece of glass, and it's like, they're spreading awareness of the glass movement and the pipe movement, and they're really some of the most educated in the movement because they've been around. They go to all the trade shows, they see the new hot stuff that's being made, and and they are museums. They hold people's history. Some people, like, you got Banjo and Buck and Yushin and all these guys, their pieces are all sitting around in head shops all over the country that are the pieces that have gotten them to where they are, right? Their history. And so it's a really huge aspect of why we've been successful in pushing the medium, is because we've had that kind of support over the last few decades.
Yeah, and as a leader and pioneer in the community, I would suspect, I would love to go anywhere to see your work in person. Whether it be a head shop, a museum, a gallery like mine, it's at that level now where it draws a crowd. And that's really exciting, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, and that's kind of, I love the idea that, I make these big pieces and, people get to interact with them. People go out of their way to see them. And, I've had moments where, I've had my work displayed at like trade shows, for example, and I've had, people come up and just start bawling
Hmm.
and crying and just so emotional over seeing one of my pieces, because it's something that, until you see it, you just never knew that it was possible. You never knew that there could be this just big, 2 foot tall sculpture that you could smoke out of that's just so gorgeous. Like, it's really blows people's minds. And to be in those moments and feel the experience, it really like kind of brings it all full circle, where I'm like, okay, like, I am on the right path in my life. And like, to experience those moments and to touch people in that way is like, in my mind, what more can you ask for? And being alive on the planet, making the world a better place, is to inspire people in that way.
Yeah, I just saw the show they had at the Flint Institute of the Arts. They had the first, I don't know if it's the
Mhm.
first, but it had the Flint first formal pipe show on display. And
Yeah.
the pieces were loaned from the artist, which was great to see. I can see the potential for the excitement in the community to bring the work in. The exhibition itself needed um, a little more elevation, which
Yep.
means shows the importance of each and every piece. Because when they're in together in a museum, you kind of need the idea of these pieces are the life of each individual artist at one time, now the pinnacle of their career. And it was cool to see. It was definitely exciting. There's a ton of people there. There's a huge turnout for that exhibition, and
Yeah.
it's probably still up. I recommend people go see it. You have a piece in that show too.
You have a piece in that show. Yeah.
It's great. So I took photos of that. I have it on my phone. I'll put it up online or I'll probably put it on social media. But it was really exciting to see that.
Yeah, it's extremely rare, that I get to show my work in a arena that's not necessarily, like a pipe arena, like that's not like a trade show or a head shop or pipe gallery. It's extremely rare, and I get really excited when I get these rare opportunities to show my work, because I get to show it to a different audience, right? Because a pipe enthusiast is going to see it and they're going to recognize it and they're going to be like, okay, this is great. But really, I want to show my work to professionals who have no idea that this could even be done with borosilicate. Never seen a piece of glass like this with so much detail and ornate work. And to just like it I really have fun with just educating people on really what's possible with lamp working, and it's exciting. I welcome more of those opportunities.
Definitely. It was really exciting. Came together because I know we talked to them years ago about doing a show, and it took the right person at the right place at the museum to
Yeah,
organize it all. And it worked differently than museums usually work, because museums usually receive works like months in advance before the exhibitions happen. In this show,
yeah.
I think a lot of pieces showed up like a day before, but they
Okay,
adapted and they made
that's
it happen, which is great.
I guess. Yeah, it's so fun. It's a huge honor. It's a huge honor, I think, and everybody who's probably involved, probably feels the same way. I speak for myself, especially, like, just to have the opportunity to show my work in the Flint Institute is super cool.
It's a great
So
museum too. They have a great collection of contemporary glass art from our gallery. They collected from collectors. They bought it from a collector who purchased from us between 2005 and 2015.
yeah,
But to add to the narrative of bringing in the functional community and the creativity, the talent, like they wrote little plaques describing the people who made them and why and what their background was. And
yeah.
it was really important, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, and they're doing good work. We need more galleries and institutions like that to really, take a look at what's being done in the pipe market. I mean, we've revolutionized borosilicate in general. We've invented all these tools and equipment and kilns and colors. I mean, there is only like a couple dozen colors of borosilicate back in the day, and now there's several hundreds of colors. Due to the pipe movement, and so
Hmm.
really innovated a lot. And so I think it's worth galleries' time to really take a closer look at what's being done. I mean, this is modern contemporary art at its finest, in my opinion. It's time for people to kind of wake up and really show. And I think Corning too is starting to really open their mind to the idea of borosilicate and well, obviously they have a flame working department, but you know, pipe makers, they're starting to kind of open their doors and have pipe makers come teach classes and do demos. I just was able to do a demo in their hot shop arena this last winter, which was a really amazing experience. You know, I never ever thought that I'd have work in a place like Corning, of all
Right.
places. So, you know, I felt like when I was there, just this huge, like, wow, I went to Corning back in 2011 and just was like dumbfounded by all of the amazing glass art they had, and never imagined that I would have the opportunity to be there. And it's just so awesome and such a dream come true to really have the fine art world be able to recognize what's happening in the flame working pipe community.
Yeah, I agree with but they know they gave David Colton the Rakow Commission at Corning in 2019, putting the first pipe on display.
Oh
And
yeah,
it was a big time. I know Susie Silver had a big hand in that, making that happen when she was at the museum.
yeah.
It's exciting. It really feel like it's a real important time for innovation in the community as it's becoming. And what you mentioned too was really important. Is if you're watching this video, institutions, pay attention. Nothing brings people in like these works that are made by the pet community, because there's such an energy to it with young people who care about the different artists that are heavily involved. You can reach out to one of these particular artists or even me and say, hey, we're interested in doing a show. Can we get something in the books? And I guarantee something can probably happen. And you wouldn't believe the response. It would be very exciting for your community to do something.
That's right. I mean, there's a huge market for these pieces. I mean, obviously, it's like $1 billion industry, you know. So I think it's worth everybody's time to really take a closer look at what's happening and just, you know, we're raising a generation of collectors. You know, like people that are collecting, you know, like these pieces in their 20s and 30s, and you know, and these people are going to be the collectors of the future. Yeah, and so it's really important to just stay modern and stay current so that you can have longevity in your business model as an art gallery. And
Yeah,
so
it adds variety to the experiences which institutions really need,
yeah,
because they focus. I mean, showing glass is an uphill battle with a lot of institutions because they don't have the resources or the knowledge to do it. But with our help or with the desire to do it, there's people like the people in the Flint Institute of Arts, people like
mhm,
Charles Shepard at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, who love glass and realize it's such an important part of the art world that you need to bring it's the society, your constituents will see it once and they'll be forever changed and want it to become more and more. And I've seen that happen, and I'm
yeah,
excited about it.
yeah. It's like the idea. There's like a quote. It's like you know, show me something beautiful and I'll applaud, but show me something that I've never seen before and I'll remember you for a lifetime. You know, and I think really the idea behind Not Your Grandma's Glass too is like you guys are trying to show something that hasn't been seen before in glass. And so that's what really you know, sticks to the memory and really affects people when they get to see like this new stuff that's like, what is this? You know, what are people doing with glass? Like, you know, there's not a whole lot of borosilicate pieces out there that have hundreds and hundreds of parts, you know, in the contemporary aspect. So it's quite interesting to really be able to see these in person. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So next question for you. Where do you see your work in the future along those lines?
Yeah, I would just like to see my work everywhere. Like I was talking about before, I think that there's such a wider audience that hasn't seen my work yet because my work has only been seen in the context of the pipe industry. And so, I really look forward to being able to branch out and show my work in places all over the world and in museums all over the world. I think there's a much wider market of people, an audience of people that would really appreciate what I have to say and would really appreciate sort of the decades of technique and skill that I've put into my pieces that yeah, I have a lot to say with my work, and so getting it in front of as many eyes as possible to be able to, um, you know, uh, just share these beautiful messages with the world. That's really, really my goal.
And then you can add every museum across the country and
Yes,
every home across the world. That's where I want to see it too.
I
Let's
love it.
get
I'm ready to see it. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I look forward to more opportunities to just be able to widen the audience and online, pictures and don't do it justice. It's really being able to get with these pieces in person is a really an experience. So
Yeah, that's great. So, what are you up to next? I know you're on the road now. Where are we going to see you next?
so I am on my way out to Oregon, my home state, where I'll be visiting family, and I'll be doing a little bit of work out there with a friend of mine, Sarita, who does sort of these flower pattern work in glass. And then I'll be heading down to LA to collaborate with a guy named Boom Palazzi, who is making these really sought after, highly functional pieces right now. So we'll be putting our brains together to make something cool. And yeah, there's just a lot for this next year. I'm busy. I have an event almost every month. I may be teaching a class. We haven't announced it yet, so you're the first to know. But I'll be teaching a class later next month with a class floor named Karma, and we're gonna have Chris Dyer also participate in the workshop. And so he's a pretty well known visionary artist. So it'll be fun to have that kind of energy into our workshop too. So teaching is one of my favorite things these days, and collaborating with my friends. So got a lot of shows in the future, and I'm just staying busy trying to put out the best work I can for y'all.
That's great, Lacey. Well, let's look at some of the available works that are in your NGG exhibitions. Again, it's an honor to have you in the show, and I'm glad we're putting a spotlight on you and your work for those who don't know you. And like I said, these works are incredibly impressive, and let's talk about them because they are masterpieces. This is the first one. What is this one called?
This is called Cohabitate, and it's a treehouse. Was a collaboration that I did. It was actually the piece that we made at Corning I referred to earlier. This piece is really significant. I had two other collaborators work with me on this, and it kind of all started when Eric Goldschmidt, the head of the flame lamp working department there, hit me up and wanted me to come demo. And I knew, obviously, demoing at Corning was a big deal, so I wanted to come as hard as I could. I wanted to do something as big as I could and as intricate. So I enlisted my friend Phil Siegel, who has 15 years of construction experience building houses before he got into glass. And so I'm like, dude, you're my treehouse guy. And then I had my friend Chris Vickers, who goes by Hickory, who spent the last 15 years making really detailed, beautiful wood grain glass technique, this prep technique that he has. That's really unparalleled. And so with these two guys, it was like the dream team to make this treehouse piece. And this thing is, I think it's like 23 inches tall. So it's quite large. And the house actually comes off of the deck there and is a fully functional pipe.
Hmm,
And so it acts like as a big stand, and the house is a pipe.
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm very happy with how it came out, and the experience of making it was really significant. Pipe makers up in Corning is a pretty rare thing. So
I can't imagine how long it took to make all those little leaves. And I just discovered the figure hidden inside the tree. That's so fun.
There's a woman holding up the tree, kind of the idea of nature holding up humanity and all that we've built and kind of the precarious position that we're in. So it kind of comes back to an issue that's dear to my heart. But yeah, a lot of prep work. We did weeks of prep work actually leading up to our demo. I made all the leaves. There were 750 leaves total that we used on the piece, and well over 1,000 individual parts to make that piece. And over 200 hours, I believe, are the statistics.
Wow, that is incredible. Incredible. 200 hours.
Yes.
Next work we have here. This one is called, oh, you should pronounce it because I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
I might pronounce it wrong too, but Entheon.
Entheon. Perfect.
Yeah. And so it's kind of the idea of, going within yourself to find God, essentially, or to find your inner higher self. And so this piece was inspired by sort of hallucinogenic plants and funguses that kind of help you to tap into that place where you kind of go within your own mind and explore the habitat within your own mind. And so there's cannabis leaves in there. There's, the mushroom fungus. We have sage on there. There's peyote buttons down at the bottom. And then gypsum weed, those kind of trumpet flowers there, are also a hallucinogenic plant. And so we're just kind of telling a story about entering into the habitat of your mind. This piece is a collaboration with Phil Siegel once again. We taught a class in Orlando, Florida this last May where we created this piece for our workshop that we taught. And so, yeah, it was really fun to incorporate our different styles. And once again, the mushroom in the middle is actually a pipe. So you can take that mushroom house right off of there and smoke right out of the chimney. And the rest of it is kind of a big fancy stand, but we certainly enjoyed teaching our class, large scale assembly techniques and different color prep techniques and ways to tell stories with your work. So it was a good time.
I love the fact that the elaboration is in the stand just to hold the pipe, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And then let's kick over to this guy. This one is the Kraken. Oh no. Yes. The Kraken.
Yes. So the Kraken, I made a couple years, maybe 2 years after I had my baby. So this was kind of one of those pieces that I just kept seeing in my mind that I just had to get out. And the only way to get it out was to make it. And so, the idea, I actually made a very significant piece in my past. I did a collaboration with Buck, which was a large scale pirate ship. And so this was kind of a nod to that piece and incorporating the pirate ship and sort of my feminine aspect, just kind of like, the idea of my own kind of journey in my own career is that I'm moving on, from the past and moving forward. And, it's like all this stuff bubbling to the surface of me just being ready to just fulfill my potential. For so long, there was a lot of like imposter syndrome of, do I belong here? Do I have what it takes to make it in this industry? And so this piece was almost like proving to myself that, I can really create this beautiful, intricate object. And, it's very significant to me personally in that way.
I love this piece. I love the coloring, love the narrative. I love the hidden pirate ship that you see once you get past the octopus lady. Very, 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 very beautiful.
Thank you.
This is another powerful piece called, let's see, I have in my robot here, Summer Despair.
Yes. This is probably one of the most emotionally charged pieces I've ever made. And, it happened. I made this one. The wildfires out in the West started kicking up and becoming pretty severe in around 2017, 2018. Growing up in Oregon, fires were never a big deal in the summer. We never dealt with smoke pollution or any of that. And that really started to shift after 2016. We started having every year with very serious wildfires where I would be having my stuff packed and ready to evacuate on any given notice. And we'd have, entire months just covered with polluted smoke. And so it was really affecting my mental health. And, there was a particularly big fire and near my home one summer. And I remember having a dream. I woke up the next day from this dream of this fire, of this tree trying to escape the fire, and just like the whole despair of that image of like, it was almost like there was this human personified spirit within this tree. And I just was like, wow, this would be, I woke up with this vision and thought, wow, this would be an amazing piece. And it kind of took me a little bit to get up the courage to make it. It was one of my first kind of large scale tree pieces, but I could not stop thinking about it till I got it out of my head. And I feel like I put all of my emotion and all of my despair about what I was seeing, my whole region go dry and burn. I just put all this energy into this piece, and it really, I think, depicts what it feels like, to have the habitat, your habitat in your region just, have such destruction in it. So, a really powerful piece. I mean, it makes me kind of just get really emotional even looking at it still, because it just, is really takes me back to and what we're continuing to deal with climate change. So I think the more people that see this piece, the more people can kind of have this message about what's happening, especially those who don't experience it as directly, and see how it, yeah.
It's definitely a powerful piece for sure. Definitely creates emotional response, whether you understand it or not. But having you talk about it is definitely helpful for the viewer. Now we're into the winter. This work is called, I have it in front of me, Winter Surrender.
Winter Surrender, yeah. So when I first started this body of work, I spent a year making 4 trees. And the summer one that you just saw was for summer, and they represented each season. So this one represents winter. And this was one of the most challenging pieces that I ever made. It took me months to try to figure out the weight and the balance, and there was a lot of hiccups, a lot of mess ups. I tore a bunch of parts off to make it work, but it was a huge learning experience for me. And it's really just the idea of just sort of letting go. With winter, we kind of just let go. We snuggle in and we just let go of the idea of getting out and about and being productive, when we just kind of surrender to the moment, surrender to the weight of winter and darkness, which is so important. Instead of fighting, the darkness, it's like here it is, and it's part of the light. And so, there's a female figure that's kind of leaned back, and her head's leaned back, and she's just like kind of surrendering to the weight of those icicles there. And I just really love that idea of just letting it go and being present with the moment and with what is.
I'm gonna wait to see the female figure leaning into the tree as it rotates.
Yes, a female figure right in the middle there.
Right in the middle there. Yep, I saw it too. Great. Kick out of that. Well, that's the end of the slideshow. Lacey, thank you for sending me all those photos to give us a glimpse into your life, career, and work. It is a true honor to have you in NGG. I have a price list of the work. Feel free to email me. It'll be up on our website later on today for those to check out and see. But this is a lot of fun to learn about your life and career and get a glimpse into your world. We're learning more and more about it. And as the world changes, I'm looking forward to more intertwining of how our gallery works and in the world, the functional pipe world, and beyond as time goes by. So thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And it's really an honor to have this opportunity. And I look forward to continuing to make big works that we can have conversations about in the future. So thank you for being here.
Thank you again. For those watching again on YouTube, please share this with those who love artwork. We do these Zooms every Saturday, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again, Leslie. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.